Imagine finding yourself in the most perilous and terrifying situations imaginable, where every decision you make could mean the difference between life and death. How long would you last? These are the scenarios that test the very limits of human endurance and willpower. Now, let's delve into these harrowing circumstances and see if you have what it takes to survive. Survival is a primal instinct embedded deep within our DNA. But in the modern world, we rarely face the life or death challenges that our ancestors did. What if you were suddenly thrust into one of these extreme scenarios? Would you be able to survive the unknown, the dangerous, and the downright horrifying? This is not just a hypothetical question, it's a test of your wits, courage, and resilience. Join us as we explore 10 intense survival situations that will make you question your own limits and reveal the darkest corners of human fear and tenacity. Imagine waking up on a deserted island, the remnants of a shipwreck scattered around you. The sun beats down mercilessly, and the only sound is the distant crash of waves. There's no sign of civilization. How long could you survive? On this island, fresh water is scarce, and the only food sources are what you can catch or forage. The nights are cold, and the dangers include wild animals and potentially deadly insects. With no immediate hope of rescue, your survival depends on your ability to find shelter, create fire, and secure food and water. Second situation is deep in the heart of an uncharted jungle. The canopy blocks out the sun, and the air is thick with humidity and the sounds of unknown creatures. Your supplies are limited, and you have no map or compass. The threats here are numerous: venomous snakes, insects carrying deadly diseases, and the constant possibility of getting lost further with each step. In this scenario, finding clean water and safe food is paramount, but navigating through the dense foliage while avoiding predators tests your survival skills to their core. The jungle is unforgiving, and even the smallest mistake can be fatal. Third situation is the earth trembles, and suddenly you're plunged into darkness. A mine collapse has trapped you underground with a handful of fellow workers. The air is thick with dust, and your light sources are limited. Oxygen is running low, and the temperature is dropping. Survival here depends on staying calm, rationing food and water, and finding a way to signal for help. The darkness is disorienting, and the looming threat of further collapses adds to the tension. How long can you endure the claustrophobic conditions and dwindling hope?
Fifth situation is, the world as you know it has ended. A virus has turned most of the population into flesh-eating zombies. Cities are in ruins, and you are constantly on the move, scavenging for food, water, and supplies. Every sound you make could attract the undead, and trust is a luxury you cannot afford with other survivors. In this apocalyptic nightmare, survival hinges on your ability to remain unseen, find safe havens, and avoid confrontations. The psychological toll of constant fear and the loss of everything you once knew test your mental fortitude as much as your physical stamina. Next situation is, imagine being stranded in a frozen wasteland, the temperature well below zero, with snow and ice as far as the eye can see. Your clothing is insufficient, and you have no immediate shelter. The wind howls relentlessly, and frostbite is a constant threat. In this scenario, finding or building shelter quickly is crucial to avoid hypothermia. Fire is essential not only for warmth but also for melting snow to drinkable water. Food is scarce, and the danger of getting lost in whiteout conditions is ever present. How long can you endure the freezing cold and the isolation of the frozen wilderness? Another situation is, a nuclear disaster has turned your city into a radioactive wasteland. The landscape is unrecognizable, and the air is filled with toxic radiation. Resources are scarce, and the few survivors you encounter are often desperate and dangerous. Survival in this scenario requires knowledge of radiation safety, finding uncontaminated food and water, and avoiding conflict with other survivors. The psychological strain of living in a post-apocalyptic world, where every breath could be your last, pushes your resilience to the limit. How long can you survive in a world poisoned by radiation? Next situation is, you find yourself captured by a hostile group in a foreign land. You are imprisoned, with limited food and water, and subjected to harsh conditions and possible interrogations. Escape seems impossible, and the threat of violence hangs over you constantly. Survival here depends on your mental strength, the ability to endure physical hardship, and finding ways to communicate or plan an escape. The psychological battle against fear and despair is as critical as any physical challenge. How long can you hold on in the face of captivity and brutality?
Next situation is trapped on the upper floors of a high-rise building, smoke fills the air, and flames block your exit routes. The heat is intense and panic sets in as you search for a way out. The risk of smoke inhalation, burns, and structural collapse adds to the urgency of your situation. In this terrifying scenario, remaining calm and finding safe pathways to escape are vital. Knowing how to navigate through smoke, using makeshift breathing aids, and signaling for help can mean the difference between life and death. How long can you survive in the inferno? Imagine being adrift in the vastness of space, with your spacecraft damaged and life support systems failing. The isolation is absolute, and the silence is deafening. Supplies are limited, and your chances of rescue seem hopelessly slim. Survival in space requires managing your oxygen supply, conserving food and water, and using your knowledge of spacecraft systems to make repairs. The psychological challenge of facing the infinite void and the possibility of never returning to Earth is immense. How long can you survive the ultimate isolation of being lost in space? These scenarios test the very limits of human survival, each presenting unique and horrifying challenges. From the unforgiving elements of nature to the dangers of a post-apocalyptic world, each situation demands resilience, resourcefulness, and an unyielding will to live. As you ponder these extreme survival scenarios, ask yourself, how long could you survive? The answers may surprise you, and they underscore the incredible, sometimes terrifying, capacity for endurance that lies within us all.